I'm Emma Tom, and I'm very excited that my book Attack of the 50-Foot Hormones is being published by HarperCollins in July. It's basically a guide to everything you need to know to maintain your sanity while you're up the duff. So the background behind this book is that a few years back, when I was 36 years old and on the pill, I went to the doctor and was diagnosed with an SLF, which turned out to be ridiculous medical jargon for a single live fetus. Words cannot express what a shock this was for me and my de facto partner. But we decided to continue with the pregnancy, and I started keeping a diary. One of the things that really annoyed me about being pregnant was that a lot of the pregnancy books that are already on the market had heaps and heaps and heaps of information about the physical sides of pregnancy. In fact, there's probably no time in history where pregnant women have been bombarded with so much information about everything that can possibly go wrong and everything they should possibly do to, protect their unborn children from horrible death and destruction. And I actually think that for me, the emotional sides of being pregnant were much more challenging than the physical sides. And I think this is quite common for many women. Like, in many ways, pregnancy has never been safer or easier physically, but I think that emotionally it's probably never been this hard. And there are a few reasons for this, and one of them is that women have so many more choices than they used to, and we have lives that are so much more complicated than they used to be. And back in the day, having babies was just something that you automatically did. You didn't give it too much thought, you didn't get all angsty about it. And while feminism has had many wonderful upsides, the fact that we now have so much more choice when it comes to whether or not we have kids and when we do it and who we do it with means that there's this extra level of worry that we have to sort out. I think pregnancy is also often a lot harder for women than it used to be because there are a lot more older mums, and I was listed as being of advanced maternal age on my medical forms, and so the older you get, the more risks there are with pregnancy, and we know all about those risks now, so we've got all these statistics running through our heads, and it can be quite an anxious time for women. I think we also live in a society where we have an inflated idea about our ability to control everything, control what happens to us, control our bodies, and pregnancy is one of those experiences where your control is actually quite limited. Many women describe it as a time when they feel like their body has literally been invaded. And this is really hard for women to deal with. It's hard because part of this, the control freak nature of modern society is this idea that we can maintain some kind of physical perfection, and pregnancy is one of those times where physically you can look pretty over the top. You can put on a lot of weight, you can grow hair in places that you never expected hair to grow, parts of you change colour, your feet can get much larger and stay much larger. Many of the women that I interviewed for this book said that they felt really bullied by what they referred to as the pregnancy police, because that they weren't able to maintain the perfect pregnancy diet and the perfect pregnancy exercise routine, and they didn't do the billions of pelvic floor squeezes that you're supposed to do every 5 minutes or so, and they felt, not only failures as, pregnant women, but they felt that perhaps they were kind of damaging their unborn offspring in some way. So what I've tried to do with Attack of the 50-Foot Hormones is address a lot of the really common anxieties and concerns that we have when we're pregnant, like body image issues, anxiety about how we're going to sort of perform as parents, worries about our relationships, about our jobs, about our careers, about how we're going to find time to earn money when we have this new being in our lives, tips about how to deal with the kind of hormonal tsunami that floods you when you're pregnant. I mean, anyone that says that the kind of mood swings that you go through when you're pregnant are just all in your mind have no idea, because they are actually all in your body. There are all sorts of hormones that just go nuts in your system and kind of really have a profound effect on how you feel. So what I've done with Attack of the 50-Foot Hormones is harangue every expert I could find that knew anything about how to deal with sort of some of the emotional issues that come up when you're pregnant. So I've talked to doctors and psychiatrists, counsellors, midwives, obstetricians, lots and lots of medical specialists, as well as hundreds of women who were either pregnant when I talked to them or had been pregnant, and they tell their stories. Some of them are really, really funny. Some of them are just excruciatingly sad. But these women have been generous enough to share their stories and share their tips on how they got by. I've included my own diary of my pregnancy to discuss some of the things that I came up against and how I coped with them. I've scoured all the pregnancy literature to looking for anything that addressed the emotional sides of pregnancy, which, as I've said, I think is just severely neglected when it comes to pregnancy textbooks. There are a lot of jokes. Like, pregnancy is often written about as a sort of deadly serious thing, and in many ways it is deadly serious because the stakes are so, so high, and the potential for losses just, you know, there's potential for some truly terrible losses. But, you know, I was desperate for pregnancy humour when I was up the duff, and so there are quite a few pregnancy jokes through the book as well. It's a cliche, but Attack of the 50-Foot Hormones is basically the book that I wish I'd had when I was pregnant, because it's the only book that I've been able to find that actually takes seriously and addresses in detail the emotional aspects of being pregnant. There's a lot of other pregnancy books on the market, and there'll be, you know, a throwaway line about the fact that, yes, you might have a bit of a mood swing, or, you know, you might feel a little bit low sometimes, but there's nothing in any detail. The only tip, you know, the one tip that you'll always find is if you're having a bad day when you're pregnant, you know, just book yourself in for a nice bit of pampering down at the beauty parlour, and that should fix everything. And, you know, pampering is fantastic, but it's not enough. The things that you can go through and feel when you're pregnant are really, really major. And pampering is all well and good, but I think that we need a lot more in our pregnancy arsenals to deal with it. Unlike a lot of other pregnancy books on the market, my book doesn't start with, you know, week 1 of your pregnancy. It starts with that huge period before you get pregnant where you agonise about whether or not you should do it. So even if you're just thinking about getting pregnant, I really hope that there's something in this book that can help you make up your mind. If you are pregnant, I'm hoping that this book can help you by normalising the things that you're going through. I mean, there's so many taboos around pregnancy and birth and motherhood, and I think a lot of women feel, you know, embarrassed about some of the things they feel. So hopefully when you read this, you'll know that what you're going through is absolutely normal. Hopefully you'll read stories from other women that shows that you're not alone. Many other women are going through these things. Most importantly of all, hopefully you'll find lots and lots of tips and suggestions for how you can make the situation better. That's it from me. Look out for Attack of the 50-Foot Hormones, published by HarperCollins, out in all good bookshops from this July. And yeah, I hope that you enjoy reading it as much as I enjoy writing it. See ya.